You're listening to Getting Personal with Plant Medicine. I'm your host, Diana Crash, and today I am joined by Serafina Capranos, registered homeopath and herbalist. How are you doing today, Serafina?
I'm really good. I was just planting some new roses in my garden this morning.
Oh, that's nice. By the way, you have a beautiful name.
Thank you.
So, Serafina, we talk about the personal side of plant journeys on this podcast, and you actually teach people how to take those plant journeys. What brought you to the world of plant and earth medicine?
So I was raised by a mom who immigrated to Canada with her parents when she was a little girl. And with them, they brought their way of dealing with everyday ailments. So my mom was raised by a family that just used natural medicine in their home. They didn't have a doctor in their village. And so when me and my siblings were being raised, my mom, we never really saw a doctor. And it wasn't because they were anti establishment, it was just literally the culture of our home where we just used natural medicine. So when I had a health crisis as a teenager, I dove deeper into herbal medicine. And if any of you listening know that process, when you're in a lot of pain, you're spending time in bed, and pain can almost be like a psychedelic experience. It just drove me deeper into that felt sense reality of wanting to know what are plants, how do they work, and how can I develop a deep relationship with them.
That's amazing. I know that you have probably so many different stories that you can tell about how you discovered the benefits, because I feel like it's an ongoing, discovery. Like you're always learning more about what's out there. Because as a teenager, I wouldn't have even thought to do that, which is kind of wild to think about, really. Now, it wasn't even something to consider. It was just automatically take whatever my parents say to take, or the doctor says to take, or that sort of thing. Um, and it's just kind of strange because it's not like my family was anti plants or anything like that. I just find it kind of funny that now it seems more of a normal thing that people get to quicker, right? Than 20, 30 years ago. It was, I mean, I'm just excited to see that. I know this isn't like new information, but I'm glad to see that now it's like a little bit more of something that people get to quicker than, it's just wild to think like that would be my first line of defense now. But when I was a teenager, I just never even really thought about it. Even using cannabis as a teenager, I didn't think this is plant medicine,
Mm.
you know? Sorry, I just went on like a whole ramble there, but I just think that's really profound that you were able to have that as a teenager and do so much with it, with your life,
Yeah.
with the work that you do. So, I think this is something that a lot of people don't really realize. There's a distinction between alternative healing and herbal medicine. Can you talk about that a little bit more?
Yeah, it kind of connects to what you were just saying there, in that herbal medicine is people's medicine, and it has been the very first and primary line of defense in terms of healthcare since humans first walked on this planet. Most of our pharmaceuticals are come from plants. I don't think people are aware of how much plants inform our daily life. Our food is plants. So plant medicine is not alternative. The word alternative kind of suggests that there's a primary system of medicine, and that is the scientific method. And then everything else is considered an alternative, or maybe something we'll try. But that's very like it's colonial thinking. It is patriarchal thinking. It is reductionistic, and it kind of centralizes the scientific way of operating, and it also centralizes the modern world. And it casts aside all these traditional ways of knowing and traditional cultures that are still in existence. This isn't something that we just learn about in anthropology class.
Right.
There are traditional people, indigenous people still. And herbal medicine, plant medicine is still their first and primary system of medicine. So, and it connects to what you were just saying around, isn't it profound that so many American, Canadian, or Western kids or teenagers wouldn't think of plant medicine? And that's symptomatic of this so-called modern world, which suggests that everything technical or nuclear is somehow better, but it's not.
Absolutely not. Yeah, I can attest to that.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, it's just it is wild that we're still calling it alternative healing when there's so much documented proof that that exists to show that it's been used for centuries, if not longer, and 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 that there's still so many things that we don't know about, say Benadryl, right? But we don't call that the alternative therapy, even though there's so many adverse reactions that can come of it. But anyway, we know the reason why, but we won't. we know why. So you have a lot of educational offerings available, and I'm excited to try all of them, hopefully. In addition to those, you post a lot of surprising and interesting information about plants on social media. And I really loved your post that you recently did about black cohosh. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Yeah, you are.
I only knew a little bit about it before. Can you give listeners a little bit of a preview about how beneficial this plant can be?
Yeah, so a lot of people think about it from menopause. It got a lot of media attention in the late 90s, all about menopause and hot flashes. And it's true, it does help all that because it has what are called phytoestrogens, which are nothing to be afraid of.
I remember
In
that.
yeah, I bet. In the late 90s, some literature came out suggesting that it was somehow harmful and could contribute to cancer. It was just bad press. And when it comes to plants, like a lot of things, when there's bad press, that bad press seems to carry over for like a full decade. So there was this idea that it's just for menopause and it could be bad for you or harmful and have all these scary side effects. But the reality is, it has been used again since time immemorial for all kinds of pain. So it's used for throwing out your back, having a sore back, or pulling a muscle anywhere in your body. And it's also used for menstrual cramps, of course, because it has a profound effect on the muscles. So I use it for menstrual cramps. And then very specifically, I use it for when somebody has PMS or a low mood. Maybe it's the mood changes that are associated with perimenopause, and at the same time, joint pain or some kind of physical. So low mood and physical pain are kind of the two that symptoms. And in homeopathy, we call these keynotes. It's like the characteristic symptoms or patterns that tell us that this herb can be used for this circumstance. In a way, it's like, Diana, it's like your body's wisdom inviting you to, or showing you, kind of being that signal to tell you what your body needs. And so when we see these seemingly disparate symptoms like low mood and joint pain, or low mood and a sore back or sore menstrual cramps, that points to black cohosh.
And do you normally prepare that in like a tincture or tea?
Yeah, a tincture. I find it's not the nicest tasting plant. So
which ones are though?
yeah, those bitters that cool that liver heat. It
Yeah.
often hurts. It's actually a good question. Like which one are? So I'll tell you because there's actually a little tip here. The ones that tend to be anti-inflammatory and good for the liver, like clearing all that congestion and stagnation in our body, tend to not be that nice tasting. The ones that are nice tasting tend to be for that depleted, worn out body that needs to be fed and nurtured and supported, like milky oats or marshmallow, which is great for somebody who's burnt out, has a burnt out immune system. So those tend to be the ones that are sweet and nice tasting.
Really? I actually haven't tried marshmallow. I need to. Now you said, I'm like, yes, me, and I love marshmallows.
Yeah.
I'm just so excited to try all of this. I'm making a list here. So another one that you talked about that I saw through your post. Can you talk about your first experience with motherwort? That's another herb I'm quite obsessed with at the moment.
Oh gosh, yeah. Where do I start? I love motherwort so much. And it's another one that is good for menstrual cramps. I think I was 15. I was 14 or 15. I think I was 15 when I first started getting menstrual cramps, and I did not want to use over-the-counter drugs. And I knew that the plant world offered so much as a first line of defense. So I had a mother tincture, and it was really incredible. I just took it by the half teaspoon every couple hours. And I had gone home from school that day, and I was just laying on my couch. And with every dose, it was like this weight off my womb space just lifted. And the pain reduced and reduced and reduced. And I thought maybe it's a fluke. Maybe it's just one of those days. But every month I used it, and every month I had the same repeated, consistent benefits of motherwort. The neat thing about motherwort, like all plants, they don't just do one thing. They're like a whole pharmacy unto themselves, each individual plant. Motherwort is so good for anxiety. So if you have like anxiety, a lot of energies up in your head, heart palpitations, anxiety with fear, anxiety with anger, those are some of the keynotes there. Motherwort is such a great herb. So think about it. You're menstrual, you've got cramps, and you're anxious. Motherwort's got your back.
Yes. I'm like, yeah, ding, ding, ding. So do you grow your own motherwort? Do you grow all of your own medicine?
Most, yeah, I do. It's interesting. I was just weeding the motherwort patch along with my roses this morning, and motherwort is so easy to grow. It is a weed, literally.
Wow.
So watch out. If you have one plant, year by year, you're going to have a lot more, and then lots to give away to your friends. So I'm always giving away motherwort babies to all of my friends. And the beautiful thing about it, it grows so tall, at least where I live. If you're in a really cold ecosystem or mountainous ecosystem, it might not grow that tall, but it can grow like 14 feet. It's
Wow.
really, yeah, really tall. And the bees love it. It produces these little beautiful orchid-like flowers that are tiny, and the bees go crazy for it.
Oh, that's wonderful. I'm sure you probably get this question a lot, but how do you manage all of the different types of herbs? Because there's so many out there. I feel like I'm constantly learning about more. And so in order to have like the best health every day, going in the herbalism path, going down that road, it requires like very specific instructions, right? Like you just said, I took a half of a, what teaspoon every
Teaspoon.
couple of, so you have to do like I noticed like a lot of them it's like every couple of hours or on these days you take them and on this day. So if someone wants to become more involved in herbalism but they're just like overwhelmed with that type of thing, where would they start trying to
Yeah.
like make the big switch?
It's a great question. And what I say to all of my students is just choose 1 to 3 herbs and get to know them like really good friends. And I think of plants that way. Just like you go to a new school, you're going to meet maybe one good friend and then a couple good friends. That's the same principle. Please don't try to memorize or learn 10, 20, 30 more plants. It's going to be futile because every plant really is like an entire pharmacy. Every one single plant does a ton of things. So in my daily life, just to give you an idea, in my office, which is where I'm sitting today, I'm looking at maybe 100 different herbs on my shelf. But in my
Wow.
daily life, I'm just using milky oats, mint, nettle, and I have them on repeat. And those three do a lot of different things. And then when I'm sick or I have cramps or I'm treating a fever, then I'll go to a few other plants that I know really well. But you can be a phenomenal herbalist working with just 5 to 7 plants and you
Wow.
get to know them really, really well. It's actually better in terms of education to know what one plant can do 20 different things. So you get to know that one plant really well versus knowing 500 plants, but you only know one thing that each of them do.
That is fantastic advice. I love that. Especially how you just said nettle and milky oats, right? Is that
Yeah.
Those are two that I'm really like I have those on my list. I drink nettle tea, but I want to start growing and well, I don't know if I can grow nettle, but
Yeah, I bet you can. Oh, yes, you can. In your ecosystem where you are, you can grow it in a pot. Just give it lots of
Really?
water. Oh, yeah.
Wow.
They're
Oh,
weeds.
okay. Yeah.
They're weeds. They're hard to get rid of.
That's what they said about catnip, but the squirrels sure got into it. They made sure to get rid of it. I didn't think that that was going to happen. I thought they were just going to keep popping up, but it didn't. So I have to start again.
Oh, wow.
But that's okay. It's on the list for this this week's planting. So so what is the wild edge?
Yeah. So my colleague, Dr. Carly Danoon, and I, we have co-produced, co-created this program called From the Wild Edge. And we chose that name because we observe that it's the wild edge, it's the neglected edge where ecosystems meet, where women especially heal and transform and learn something new. It's where we awaken. It's where the fertility is in any ecosystem, is where the edge is, the edge of the forest, the edge of the garden. And this program, we meet live for 8 weeks, but the content inside the program will really take months for a person to get through if they wanted to embark on this journey. So it's a program that addresses and covers, and you learn myth, magic and ritual, herbal medicine, and modern science. And it's really is the culmination of our combined careers. We've both been in practice almost 20 years, working mostly with women. It just so happens to be that way. I have a family practice, but it just so happens that it's mostly women who seek me out. And what Dr. Carly Janoon and I both see in our practice is as a woman is healing, there's a waking up that happens. We don't heal in isolation, just as we don't get sick in isolation. We heal. There's always this consciousness shift as we heal, especially if someone is facing a big diagnosis or they're overcoming something significant, or frankly, they're overcoming or working through depression or anxiety, or moving through a major life transition like a divorce, or becoming a mother, or unable to become a mother and encountering fertility issues. So we bring in myth as a container and as a way to hold us as we explore our physiology, as we explore herbs, and as we learn and discover what does it mean to heal. So for example, in our first week, we hear the story of Persephone, who goes into the underworld. And we ask the question and we explore the question, when was a time, and Diana, you could even reflect on this, is when was a time where you felt like you were in the underworld? Maybe because of a diagnosis, maybe because of anxiety, depression, pain, menstrual discomfort, an autoimmune disease. It casts us into this underworld where we feel like we're alone.
Hmm.
But the story and what myths do is they show us that whatever we're working through is not only unique to us. The story is also about her, Persephone, becoming the queen of the underworld. And she finds her place and she finds her gold there in the underworld, just like many of us. When we get through hardship or when we're on the other side of crisis, we usually come out wiser and stronger, and we've learned more about ourselves. So in that first week, as we explore Persephone, we also look at the cycles and seasons in our own body. So you learn about the menstrual cycle, you learn about menopause, you learn about the different phases of the female cycle, and then we go into the herbs that address that part of our body, that part of our life. And then the module, that week one module, ends with ritual and ceremony. And so I'm also teaching you the basics and some more advanced pieces around how to create ritual and bring ritual into your life.
So you have two different options. Is this the one that I'm thinking of, right? Where there's more of a self-study option and then one that's more of involved with the group or
Yeah, good question. So the content inside the program, all the audios, videos are the same in both the self-paced, which you work through on your own, or what we call the full program, the live program, where you meet with Carly and I twice a week for 2 months. And those are 60-minute sessions twice a week. So on Tuesdays, we meet for an hour where we go into the ritual pieces, and it's on Zoom in a group format. And then Thursdays are with Dr. Carly Deneau, where you get more into the science and the physiology. So that's twice a week, 16 live classes over 2 months. So those are
Wow.
the two options. Yeah.
That is incredible. And so I know that you have a lot of other classes and offerings. Is there anything that you would like to promote before we end?
Yeah, I think the program From the Wild Edge is probably going to be the one that is most accessible to folks and most exciting. I think it is certainly the most robust program. If people feel like they're not ready to dive into such a commitment, I do have, you'll see it on my website, The Alchemy of Herbal Medicine. It's an introductory self-paced program that's, I think, 198. So it's super affordable and that's very robust itself. So those are the two offerings I have. But I certainly feel like the Wild Edge is probably the most incredible offering that we have right now.
Absolutely, but people can learn a lot just from your website alone. And it looks like you also offer some one-on-one type of
Yeah.
coaching, right? All right, well, that is wonderful, and I can't wait to learn more from you in the future. Please come back anytime. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
This episode was produced by Your Highness Media, audio editing done by James Crash, and sponsored by mitragaya.com. Be sure to subscribe and rate our podcast if you haven't yet. And subscribe to our Your Highness Media newsletter on Substack for everything new going on in the Your Highness Media world.